So, as Jesse has said, and I want to preface that we've all been through a lot these last couple of weeks, and it may even be weeks, maybe months for some of you, may even be a year. I don't know what any of you have been going through lately. So, I am unapologetically an emotional person. I love a good cry, and if you know, you know. So, if you see me today and you see my eyes water, you see me stop for a couple seconds, you see my voice start to shake, do not be alarmed. I am okay. If I see you get watery eyes or whatever it might be, please know that I am holding space for you. And it is good to feel all the emotions, and we need that right now. So at any time, too, if you need to take a breather, you need to take a break, step away, and come back, please feel free to do so. And if you just need to leave because you have an appointment, I will not take it personal as well. Please just do whatever you need to do. But I do like interaction, so if I do ask stuff, don't just stare at me, because then it's going to be awkward for all of us. All right, so who is ready to take a reflection journey with me? Y'all ready? Let's do this. Maybe. Am I doing this right?
You're hitting that one button, so it's this one.
Oh, all right.
You got it.
We're good. Drum rolls. I don't know what this is for. Oh, please welcome. That's me. All right. Okay, now you've all seen me. And there we go again. So, officially, I'm Alissa Hopkins. My pronouns are she, her. I'm an end-of-life death doula and the founder of Before I Go. So when I got asked to speak about my story and tying it in with a theme of reflection, I thought, this will be easy, no problem, I got this. It's not so easy. When you start reflecting on things and you start looking at past, a lot of things start to come up for you, a lot of memories. Some really good memories, some painful memories, some sad ones, some that are going to make you laugh hysterically when you think of them, and some that you just literally need to take a breath and be like, whew, that is done, right? So with that, and I know we did it earlier, but you know what? You can never breathe enough. So we're going to take a quick 10-second breath in, like you're smelling a cup of coffee, all the delicious coffee, roses, car leather. I don't know what you like to smell, but take a deep breath in, and then when you let it out like you're blowing a candle out, if we still do that, blowing something off you, whatever it is. All right. Hopefully that felt good for you, felt good for me. All right. Now, pop quiz time. And I'm going to tell you a little secret, okay? You're all going to get an A+ on this pop quiz. So do not be stressed about this. I have 2 questions, and I had to change this a little bit because I know some of you know me in here. So, who can simply, and that's the key word, simply explain what an end-of-life doula is by show of hands? Yay! And all the rest of you, yay! All right, did you just think to yourself, I can barely explain what I do on a daily basis. Now this woman's asking me what an end-of-life doula does? Show of hands. Okay. The rest of you, just not answering. I see you. So by definition, an end-of-life doula or death doula is a trained non-medical professional of extraordinary compassion and kindness who brings emotional practical, and unbiased support and expertise for those nearing death. Also known as end-of-life doulas, these caring professionals are often called upon to provide comfort, calm, and education for the dying person and their loved ones. And credit is given from the doula toolkit. So I'm going to go ahead, and as we go through our time together, I'm going to simplify this down for you a little, because I'm sure nobody's going to be reciting that whole definition when somebody asks you what an end-of-life doula is. So part of being an end-of-life doula or a death doula is being inquisitive, and we ask a lot of questions. And why do we do that? Is because if I am with you near the end of life, or I am planning with you, I want to know those really fine details about you, what you like, what your favorite song is. Do you like the fan on at night? Do you like the AC on blowing on you? So I'm a very curious and open person. That's a big thing that we do. So I am curious. I use end-of-life doula and death doula interchangeably. So by show of hands, and I need more hands up this time, I'm going to ask you, do you like end-of-life doula or death doula? So by show of hands, who prefers end-of-life doula? Ooh, okay. Show of hands, who prefers death doula? Okay, all right. I see you, my death doula people. All right, so how did this all begin? How did I get here? Well, and you're going to be looking at this little slide for a while, so bear with it. So this is baby Ansi. I was born, and my name was born as Ansi. I was born in Kerala, India, and I was adopted by my family. And I was brought over to New York, where my dad came and picked me up, and I have grown up in Florida ever since. Can you all read what the text says on the screen? Okay, I can't either because I don't have my glasses on. So I'm going to get closer. So on my adoption day, it was always celebrated even more than my birthday typically, because it was a very important day. It almost took 2 years for my parents to get me. And so every year, my dad and I would exchange a text. And this is me saying, "Morning, Dad. Thank you for flying to New York and adopting me. I still remember the story you always tell me, and every year I appreciate what you did for me even more. Love you. After a while, crocodile." And if you see alligators and crocodiles on my arm, then this is the meaning behind them. And he replied, "Hi, honey. How did you know I would be up this early?" Just ignore that. "Yes, the best day in my life. Happy coming into my life day." At sign, because he thought those were smiley faces. I love you. SULA. See you later, alligator. He also put U's instead of Y's. So I also have SULA tattooed of his writing on my wrist. So this whole arm is really a personal family story for me. So as I was growing up, if you asked me, and probably most of us in this room, what you wanted to be when you grew up, nobody at our age was saying an end-of-life doula, right? No. We were saying vets, lawyers. I want to be an astronaut. If you know me, I'm not good at math, so astronaut was definitely out of the question for me. So eventually, here I am. I'm an end-of-life doula, and I would love someday to be able to ask a younger individual, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And they say an end-of-life doula. Oh my gosh, would that make my heart so happy? And I think we're getting there, and we're doing this by educating and having these open conversations. So as I grew older, I got my first real job at what was formerly the Art Center, now the Moran Art Center, and opening the Chihuly collection. And during that time, there's been 4 different times in my life that I've gotten 4 calls that have really impacted my life. And while I was at the Moran Art Center, I got the first call that would impact and start my life. And little did I know, for the next 15 years thereafter, I would be a caregiver for my father. At that moment, reflecting back, I didn't know that. I just thought this was going to be a week, couple weeks, but it kept on for the next 15 years. So now today, 2024, we're going to take 10 years back, and that's how we're going to go through this story. The second call to change my life dynamic was the call I received when my mom had died. And this is in the last 10 years. Now, here's the thing. I still had my dad here, and my dad was able to pick up those pieces for me, do all the logistics, and I was able to grieve how I needed to grieve. So now it's my brother, my dad, and me. I think things are ironic sometimes, and we move the date to today for obvious reasons. And tomorrow is the passing of my brother's anniversary. So 6 years ago tomorrow, on October 5th, 2016, I had a couple of missed calls on my cell phone at work, and they were from my dad. I called him to see what was going on, and he said my brother was missing. My brother was working in another state. Okay? So I go back to work. I get the call. A couple hours later, my brother has been found, and he has died. So again, my dad is able to be there to pick up the pieces for me. I grieved, not in the way I fully should have at that time, but I still had my dad. So 2021, we're still in pandemic mode, right? Crazy mode. When we reflect about that, we don't really want to reflect about that. But it was a heavy year, and so still in pandemic mode, and my dad, I'm still caregiver. We're in and out of ICUs, assisted living facilities, rehab, back home, doing it all again, the hamster wheel. You get it. So I'm feeling, and I'm working full time still, I'm traveling, trying to manage it all, and the caregiver guilt is real. Who in here has been a caregiver before or is currently a caregiver, right? You know that caregiver guilt and how it feels. And it's hard to explain, but there were days where you would just sit in the not sit in the shower. I mean, maybe you sit in the shower, I don't know. But sit in the car and cry wherever. I'm a good crier again. I like to cry. So there was a lot of times that guilt kicked in. And I honestly can't remember how I heard about being an end-of-life doula, but being a caregiver, healthcare proxy, power of attorney, all of this stuff, I had been going through the system, and I ended up having a virtual conversation with a Lua author who is the founder of Going with Grace. Now, if you Google a Lua author, Going with Grace, she has done wonderful things. She has done talks. She has been on NPR, and she recently wrote a New York Times bestseller book called Briefly, Perfectly Human. I read that book in 2 days. So I had a conversation with her, and in a couple of minutes, I knew that this was the end-of-life doula that I wanted to train under. So I signed up, and I was going to become an end-of-life doula in 2022. So I want to pause here for a second. I just want to make sure I'm not missing slides. Nope, we're good. Back to baby Ancy. Who here has a piece of item that they absolutely love, and when they put it on, they feel good, you feel confident, you are ready to conquer the world? I don't care if it's a hat, if it's shoes, if it's jewelry, if it's your dog with you, because my dog's attached to my hip. If I could have brought her here today, I would have. So, show of hands, pretty much we all have something that we love, right? So I was wearing this shirt. I was getting ready for work. I was feeling good, ready to go conquer the day. I was ready to go road warrior, as they say in sales, and had the shirt on. I was about to step out the door. I see a couple missed calls from a number I don't recognize. I get the call. December 7th, 2021, 9:32 a.m., my dad has now died. I am the last survivor in my family. This shirt, I have a love and a strong dislike for this shirt. I have not worn this shirt since December 7th, 2021. Will I probably wear this shirt again? I can't tell you yes or no. But the shirt, as I reflect back, holds a lot of meaning to me. We'll circle back to this shirt in a bit. The thing is, this time, my dad wasn't here for me to pick up the pieces. He wasn't here to take care of all the logistics. I don't have family members around to call and say, what do you do next? It's me and my loving partner and my core group of friends. And let me tell you, when you have friends that are going to be with you, you will find out when you are in the trenches of it. And so that was part of the question. Here I am, I'm at a funeral home. What questions do I ask? What options do I have? After it's done, what do I do? What do I do with the mail? What do I do with the house? All these things, while we still get our huge 3 days of bereavement, because we can do it all in the 3 days, right? Especially by yourself. And then back to work, back on the road, and back to being 100% in my job. So 2022, I take the year, and I do a lot of healing. I also do a lot of distracting myself too, though. So 2023, I made the decision to walk away from my corporate global company because I knew my value and what I brought to the table. But little did I know, in just a couple months, I'd be sitting at the head of my own table of Before I Go. I was reminded about being an end-of-life doula, so I went through the application process with going to Grace, and it was the most beautiful in-person training. No phones, no signal, 35 individuals coming together, talking about death and life, and we all just wanted to know each other and having death meditations, and it was the most beautiful experience. When I came back and I deep dove into hospice. I did every possible training, every certification. I did transitionings and was there at bedside during deaths with families. I went through everything. Reiki, all the good things. If you like Reiki, also see me after, because I love to talk Reiki. But here's the most important thing about 2023. And are you listening? All right. December 7th, 2021, we remember what happened, right? December 7th, 2023, I changed the narrative on how that day was going to look for me. And I announced that I was now the founder of Before I Go. And it was my mission to help people through the end of life in a supportive and caring way. So now when I look at December 7th, I look at it in a whole different new light. So I have Before I Go now. Well, what do I do with it? Because nobody knows what end-of-life doula is. So I educate, I network, I educate, I network. You get the drift. I'm educating, we're networking. So we're doing it all today. So when we go back to when I asked you, can you simply explain what an end-of-life doula does? A lot of us didn't know. So I'm going to walk you through it. So these are just some of the things that an end-of-life or death doula does. And it can be, we all vary and we all have certain niches. So I know a death doula that sole focus is on music and orchestrating mini concerts for people who really enjoyed those. My focus is helping and having and initiating the discussion about end of life and planning. Yes, I may ask you if you have a will. Do you have a healthcare proxy? Do you have that all in place? That is very important, and I want to say it because I am early 40s, and I have lost more than 10 people that I can count on my hands, and most of them were in our age range. So please think about that, because death doesn't pick and choose any age. So emotional support, practical support, body, spiritual, guidance, and resources. And these last three are so important to me. Honoring the end of life meaningfully. So as life comes into this world, we prep and we plan for it and we get excited and we hold these celebrations and we do all the things, right? And then at the end of life, it seems like it's doom and gloom, and it's so sad, but we can make it beautiful, especially in planning. As we talked about today, what song would you like to have played? I heard everything from, I would like celebrations of life to country roads to all different sorts of songs played. So we can plan for this, and we honor an individual with the same dignity and respect and honor as we would bringing a life into this world as a life that is leaving this world. Educating and empowering. We can do a lot of these things. So taking control and making sure that you have those documents in order, that you've let somebody know, this is my wishes at the end of life. I would like to have a natural burial. I would like to have this song played. I would specifically like to have these people show up. Please reach out to them. So making sure that those details are there. And we do this also, end-of-life doulas, we do this with a non-judgmental heart. Anything that we believe in and we have going on in us, when we walk through that door, we leave that all behind us, because it is only now about me and the client or patient and their loved ones and their community of support. So and advocacy. Advocacy is a huge one. I will be down the road focusing on advocacy and lobbying for bereavement days, because I think it is very, very important. 2 to 3 days is not going to work for anybody. And there is an organization that I follow and I just listened to the other day, and I just touched base with a local company where we're going to have a conversation about bereavement days and realistically, how many do I think people should have, and what do people need around the end of life as a caregiver or as a survivor? And that's conversations that if you have a company, your director, however, even if you can bring it up to somebody in your company, we need to be having more of those conversations, because I can tell you, a lot of people at my last company did not ever know what I was going through because I hid it so well. So, we're planning constantly, right? We're planning on what we're going to eat, our finances, our getting our trips together. We're planning what we're going to do next with everything that's just going on recently. We're planning, we can't even sometimes think what tomorrow is going to bring. We have to focus on today. And that happens a lot in the end of life when somebody has passed. Grief fog is real. It is a real thing that you don't even remember what is happening. So again, end of life doulas or death doulas, we can also be there, and that's one of the things I focus on. Planning, I'm there during the actively dying process, and then with after death care. And a lot of times you don't know, I've gotten calls, well, can I still sit with my loved one? Yes, absolutely you can. And what funeral home do I go to? What questions do I ask? And these are a lot of things that, as an end of life doula and death doula, I have the resources for, and that I've educated myself, I've collaborated, I've looked at how I can give you the best resources. You saw the alligator and the crocodile, so now you all know what the meaning is. How are we doing on time? So we are good. So we're going to kind of end with this. By show of hands, can you reflect in the future? Yeah? Okay. So when I first thought of this question, I was like, no, you can't. And then a week and a half later, I was walking my dog, and I realized that, yes, I can reflect in the future. And here's how I know I can. Because when I was doing my in-person training, we were in this beautiful facility, or this room overlooking the mountains, and we were doing a deathbed meditation. And I don't know if any of you have heard about a deathbed meditation. Yes? No? Okay. I love them. I probably will be hosting one at some point, so feel free, be on the lookout for that, because they are very powerful. And I will tell you that deathbed meditations, they can change because we all change, right? So our perception of how we want to reflect in the future can change as well. So, I am going to end, and please know that this is very, very important to me. When I wrote my deathbed meditation, it was at that time, it was a different training with more doulas. It was with 6 other doulas that read it. Only one other person has read my deathbed meditation. So I'm sharing this with you today. I am being vulnerable and open my heart to you. And I went back and I reread it, and I realized, and you'll catch it in here, it has reflection in here. So who knew when I was writing it, and another little tidbit about it, my deathbed meditation was wrote 1 year ago on my brother's passing anniversary, which will be tomorrow again. 3 words that immediately came to mind after the death meditation were powerful, beauty, and a peaceful energy. I only wanted to be surrounded by my partner, a dear friend, and my own death doula. As I thought about my career in death work, I imagined going back to when I first wanted to become a death doula and the way life had a different path with unexpected curves and winding roads to get me to the place I was meant to be, but only at the right time. I reflected on how each conversation was its own story, and I was a privilege to be a part of each individual one. How my impact varied not only on the patients and caregivers I worked with, but on me as well. There were waves of sadness wanting to be released for some, and beauty of passing and readiness in others. I pushed through the hard days and nights that made me question and go back to why. But I also held space in me to give myself grace. I was proud of what I created with Before I Go to change the narrative of dying, and I made an imprint in this field by my personal story driving my desire to fill a void in the death care industry through each service I had come to offer. I was part of a community that is so breathtakingly beautiful, with humans that bring a uniqueness in every aspect. Connections that were made over the years that supplied my heart with what it needed during different moments in my life. I accomplished what my heart and my soul felt it was called to do. Quote, I'm proud of what I created. My work is now complete, end quote. My last exhale. In the end, we all become stories by Margaret Atwood. The question is, what do you want your story to be, and how do you want it to reflect? Please feel free to see events coming up on my pages. And Before I Go is dedicated. Whew, we almost got through. Before I Go is dedicated in loving memory and honor of my mother, my brother, and my father. May they rest in love. Thank you. Thank you.